Hello and welcome back to NTD Asia Talk. With us in our studio is Leeshai and Vina from Shen Yun Performing Arts. So Vina or Leeshai, one of you can answer this. A lot of the performances told stories of traditional Chinese culture, ancient Chinese culture, like filial piety and even respect for gods. Can you talk a little bit about the messages that are behind these stories?
Well, I think one of the things that is really unique about this show is that one of Shen Yun's missions is to revive traditional Chinese culture. As we know, traditional Chinese culture, much of it has been lost under the Communist Party in China, especially during the Cultural Revolution and many other campaigns starting in the 40s and basically all the way up to today with persecution of various groups in China. A lot of this has been lost. And what allows Shen Yun, being an overseas company, this allows them to do is basically produce whatever they want on stage and revive these traditions. And in China, what you have, for example, those of you who saw the Olympics opening ceremony, you have this kind of veneer of traditional Chinese culture. You have some ideas that are being represented, but it seems kind of hollow. Whereas here, they're going from the beginning, from the ideas, from the values that are represented, and then trying to perform them through dance and through music on stage. And so you're bringing back to life this culture. And watching it as a non-Chinese, to me, is fascinating because you're seeing a revival of one of the greatest cultures on earth with the longest recorded tradition of longest history and just abundance of art forms. And it's really fascinating to watch.
Now, you mentioned about performances in China. A lot of, there's been countless audience feedbacks about the show. And what's interesting to me is that even those that have recently come from China, people who've just immigrated to the United States, or if they're just visiting and they've come to see the show, they said they've never seen anything like it, not even in China. Can you talk about what the difference between Shen Yun Performing Arts is and the shows that are produced in China that use classical Chinese dance?
I think one theme that certainly comes out is hope. Another one is integrity. Certainly in the pieces that we have that tell a story, for example, the story of a great general, UFA, he struggles between this dilemma of he wants to follow one traditional Chinese virtue, which is to defend his country, and on the other hand, stay back and take care of his mother. And in the end, his mother encourages him to go out and be the great general that he was. What you would see in other shows, perhaps coming out of China or in movies, was that this would then be usurped to have a different message of loyalty to the current regime, which is very much a political message. And basically they're trying to use traditional Chinese culture to strengthen their legitimacy as basically an illegitimate, non-elected government. Whereas here we're just trying to talk about the traditional principles and the ideas and how they guided people's lives throughout these thousands of years of history. And another example would be how Shen Yun is able to basically put anything on stage and without fear of censorship. For example, in Europe last year, where we toured for several months, one of the favorite pieces was called The Power of Awareness. And it tells the story of a mother and daughter who practice the meditation discipline Falun Gong. And they're out in the park, and people all around them are very happy that they're doing this, and they're very inspired by their peacefulness. And as is happening in China today, all of a sudden policemen come over and start beating them and trying to break them apart. And what happens in this dance is that the bystanders stand up and protect them and eventually kick the police out. And at this moment, the audience, doesn't matter where we are, it just erupts in a round of applause because they can connect to that idea of integrity, of standing up for what you believe in. And in fact, when we would come out after this piece to introduce the next dance as MCs, we could not go. People just kept clapping and clapping and clapping. And we had to add a little curtain call for the mother and daughter to come take a bow, which we usually don't do. We like to move the show, keep it moving forward. That's a way in which Chinese traditional values connect with something very core, very fundamental about, I think, our human experience that people everywhere can identify with.
The culture from mainland China, see the show is very different. And after seeing the show, they feel, wow, it is never, ever seen this. It's very fresh, very different. So that's why you got to be there to see the show, to find out from the color, from the design, from the choreography, from the language, from the dancers, the performers, how to represent things. So every single details makes the whole show very unique and different.
And you mentioned that Shen Yun Performing Arts is able to perform freely. I understand also that you have had resistance in some cities. Is there anything you'd like to comment about that?
Oh, yes. Some of the cities and some even government officials get letters from the Chinese embassy or consulate everywhere, around the world. It doesn't matter where. Some of the cities really, they're scared about because the trade or any reason. I don't know exactly, but somehow they just, step back. But somehow people there makes a huge difference. For instance, last year in Korea, we already booked the theater and everything, tickets been sold, and but somehow Chinese government threatened the theater, say, there's because if you want to get the Olympic broadcast rights, and then you have to kick Shen Yun out. You cannot let the Shen Yun performance there. So actually on the opening night, buses and audience came from other small towns and cities, or they waiting there. It's a cold winter. I actually personally went there to talk to some of the audience, and they said we don't understand why our government do this, and they feel shame about the decision being made, and they really feel upset about the situation. Some of the younger ones are saying, "Okay, we go to New York. We're going to watch your show in there." So, but it's a very pity it's been happened. But somehow, when we left the city in the airport, some of the local audience, and they were in tears, and they just say, "We really want to see your shows." We said we'll come back, but we didn't realize within about 20 days we went back. We went back when we were in Taiwan. Actually, after Korea, we left for Taiwan, and then during performance there, they said, "No, you actually have another city waiting for you. You have to come back to do the show," which is, wow, that's great. So we made a huge, very, very successful show when we went back to Korea. That's very touching.
So even though that there is resistance, the local cities really do want you to be there. And
yeah, people want, what they want to watch the show. They love it.
Yeah. We even had officials from the Chinese government especially fly out to places like Vancouver, San Francisco, LA, and watch the show kind of secretly. They were maybe there on assignment to find out, but they came up to us and said, "Hey, that's a great show. We're with you guys. Keep up the good work."
That's very interesting. So do you think you'll actually go into China? Do you think that one day that this performance will be in China?
For sure. Definitely. Very soon.
Sooner the better.
Sounds great. And thank you, Leeshai and Vina, for being on the show.
Thanks, Anna.
Thank you very much, Anna.
And we'll look forward to the 2010 performances. And that's all the time we have for today's NTD Asia Talk. Have a great day. We'll see you again soon.